Welcome to the REI Hacker Podcast, where we unlock the secrets of real estate success. Join us as we dive into the journeys of top investors, mentors, and industry experts. And now, let's hand it off to our host, Benson Juarez.
Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for being here on this edition of the REI Hacker Podcast. My next guest is Joe McCall. Joe McCall is a real estate investor. He's an educator, a national speaker. He's a leading authority in the real estate investing world, renowned for his innovative strategies to empower individuals to achieve financial freedom. He's done everything from wholesale to fix and flip, and now he's focusing on vacant land flipping. Joe, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it.
Hey, Benson, I'm glad to be here. Thanks for letting me be here.
You got it. You know, Joe, you're a former engineer who used to design power plants, and you got started in real estate in 2008, right in the middle of the crash.
Yeah.
What was it that attracted you to real estate initially?
Well, I was always one paycheck away from bankruptcy, right? Like I felt like I wanted to work for myself. I wanted to have my own business. I felt like the riskiest thing I could do is keep a job. Because I could get a paycheck. I mean, I could get a pink slip, and maybe I'd get a little severance package if I was lucky, but I would have to find another job within a few days or a few weeks, or I'd be homeless on the street. So I wanted to work for myself. I was also frustrated because no matter how hard I worked, I got paid the same every single month, right? And if I was lucky, I got a 3% raise at the end of the year. I was thankful for my job. I'm glad I went to college, actually. I thought it was a good thing. And at the time, I remember thinking, I need to have something to fall back on, because we were also heading into a recession, kind of starting 2007. And I wanted to be able to control my own destiny a little bit more. And so I'd heard about real estate investing through the book Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which almost everybody's heard of. And then I got the real estate bug. He talked about real estate investing in there. So I started buying houses the traditional way with realtors. And I bought as many houses as the banks would allow me. And then I got into a lot of trouble because I was way over leveraged. So I got into a lot of debt, got in over my head. And it still wasn't enough money to be able to quit your job. You know, like if you have a house and you're renting it out and you're getting a couple $300 a month in cash flow, that's not real cash flow, right? Like that disappears every single time with vacancies, maintenance, repairs, the water heater, the roof, or just late rent, or it's like that. Forget about it. You're never going to see that money until the house is paid off and there's no more mortgage, right? So at the time I was thinking, all right, if I just have 200 of these houses, I'll have enough cash flow to be able to replace my income and do this on my own. But it didn't work out that way. So I realized I needed to learn a way to make fast cash, not slow cash. Nothing wrong with slow cash, but you can make piles of cash or streams of cash. And so I needed piles of cash. I needed a way to pay the bills, and I needed to be making 10 grand a month to be able to quit my job. So I started learning about wholesaling, and I started doing some wholesaling deals and was having some success, but at the same time, I was getting frustrated with it because it was competitive. Even back then in 2006 and 7 and 8, it was really competitive. It's always it's always been competitive, by the way, and people will always find something to complain about no matter what direction the market's going. There's not enough sellers. There's not enough buyers. There's not enough private money, or there's not, it's too hard to find sellers. It's too hard to find buyers. So anyway, I was complaining at the time about wholesalers. There was too many wholesalers out there, and everybody was mailing the same lists, and sellers were telling me, you're the 5th postcard I've gotten this week, or you're the 5th offer that I've gotten in the last 5 days. So I started doing lease options, and I got interested in lease options because lease options are a way for you to buy a property at whatever price the seller wants, as long as they're willing to wait for it. Mm-hmm. And so I would start negotiating with sellers instead of trying to beat them down to 60, 70 cents on the dollar. I would say, well, I can get you that price as long as you're willing to wait for it. So can I maybe lease it from you for a little while and then buy it at that price? And then what I would do is I would sell that lease option agreement to a tenant buyer and I'd be out of the deal. So I was wholesaling a property like a regular cash deal you wholesale it to a rehabber or another investor. I was wholesaling these lease options to the tenant buyers that were going to live in the house, and I'd be out of the deal. So that's what allowed me to quit my job in 2009. I was doing those 3 or 4 a month, very easy, part-time, and I was making more money doing that than I was in my full-time job, so I quit my job. And then about a year or two after that, people started asking me, hey, can you teach me how to do that? And that's when I started getting into the education space and started my podcast and teaching and training people how to do this stuff. And yeah, it's been a crazy ride ever since then.
Oh yeah, and you're always paying attention to what the moves are happening, all the new trends, because even since I've known you, you've pivoted several times.
Yeah.
Like you don't beat a dead horse when you see that something is starting to not work anymore. What gives you that ability to be able to pivot so quickly and not just be stuck in the same way that you've always done things?
That's a great question. I think it's important for everybody to be like that, because the cheese will move. And there's a great book I read back 2000, so 24 years ago, called Who Moved My Cheese? Or Who Moved the Cheese? I forget. And it's all about like, they studied these rats, and they were in the maze, and the rats that survive, or mice rather, who survive are the ones that when the cheese isn't there at the same place anymore, they go and try to find another way to the other place on the maze where the cheese is. And the mice that die are the ones that just give up and they stop looking. But the mice that survive and thrive are the ones that like, all right, the cheese isn't there anymore. I'm going to keep on looking for it. And so then the cheese is constantly moving in real estate. And for investors, for example, we switch between buyers markets and seller markets. And sometimes it's easier to wholesale houses. Sometimes it's easier to buy and hold houses. BRRRR strategy at one point was really hot. Buy, rent, buy, renovate, rent, refinance, repeat. But that got really hard to do when rates go up. So you can't do the BRRRR strategy anymore. But then now there's maybe padlets or like short-term rentals, or instead of Airbnb, maybe it's now month to month, which has been around forever, by the way. That's nothing new. Month to month with furnish a house and rent it out month to month. Or there are padlets where you can rent the room out. There's so I went from buying and holding to wholesaling houses to doing lease options to doing wholesaling lease options, which is a kind of a combination of wholesaling and lease options. And then I went back to wholesaling because in 2012, a lot of cash was coming back into the market. The market crashed in the housing recession, and then it started coming back up. And there was so much money sitting on the sidelines wanting to get back in. So the tricky part became at that point, how do you find the cash buyers? And so we'd find the buyers first and then go find a deal for them. So I started doing a bunch of cash wholesaling. And then at that point, that got a little more competitive, whatever. So then I started doing land. And land, I've been doing land for about 4 or 5 years now. Really love land. It's still, when you compare it to houses, easier, faster. There's still not much competition doing land. And so will I still be doing land in 3, 4, 5 years? I don't know, probably, but there's always going to be opportunity. And so I like to watch the trends, what's working now for other people. And here's something important. Some people think, well, it's like the stock market. By the time you find a hot stock, everyone else has already found it and it starts to plummet, So real estate isn't like the stock market. Real estate doesn't turn on a dime, like with crypto or with stocks, even index funds, like it can be up 5, 10% and then down the next day and start falling. Like with real estate, the trends move much slower than that, right? And so you can see, if you just pay attention, if you are active in Facebook groups or networking groups or masterminds, you'll start to see, you know what? A lot of people are doing this. Or a lot of people are using this marketing strategy that's working really well right now. And just because you've heard it doesn't mean that, it's too late now, I can't get in on it. No, you can still get on that wave for another 3, 4, 5 years. So that's those trends kind of move really slow like that. And that's why I think it's important to be in masterminds. It's important to be network with other investors that are doing deals, and just be open of kind of what's going on out there, and how can I position myself to participate in the next wave or the next trend that's coming this way.
Yeah. Is your land approach, is that an example of your philosophy, a niche within a niche?
Maybe, maybe not. Like, it depends on who you're talking to, I guess, because there's
Right.
wholesaling, right? And inside of wholesaling is a niche for land.
Mm-hmm.
But you can also buy and hold land and sell it on owner financing for great cash flow. And but with wholesaling lease options, that's another thing. Like, lease options is a strategy most people think of to sell your deals. Well, I was buying them on a lease option and then selling them on a lease option. And you could call that sandwich lease options. But what I did at the time, I've told this story a lot to people who want to get into information marketing, people who want to get into creating and selling courses or coaching or whatever, which I think I love teaching people. I love doing podcasts and sharing things that can help people quit their job and find freedom, financial freedom. So, but I knew even at the time, I didn't want to be another Me Too product. I didn't want to be just like somebody else's. There's tons of wholesaling courses out there. There's tons of land investing courses out there. There's a lot of courses out there on Airbnb or Subject to or whatever. Like, so I wanted to have something that was really unique. I wanted something that was different than what everybody else had, or it's a little different angle, a different twist on it. Because I knew if I wanted to get invited onto other people's platforms, get invited to other people to do webinars with other people, to do on podcasts and YouTube videos, or go to boot camps and workshops and stuff like that, I needed to teach something that would complement what they were teaching. So with wholesaling lease options, the people at the time in 2008, 9, 10, there were a lot of people teaching lease options at the time. But the strategy of doing lease option assignments or wholesaling lease options was just like maybe one chapter in their book. It's just one strategy among many. And so I decided I'm going to focus on that little one strategy, make a full-time income out of it, and just create a program just on that one sliver. And that's what got me invited to do a lot of webinars with other people who were selling already lease option programs. And I was able to kind of put a unique twist. You know, you've heard of the unique selling proposition, your USP. What's your USP? This is really important, especially as the marketplace gets more and more crowded, or at least it seems like it is. It's important that you have something that's different, that stands out above the rest. And if you want to sell something, a lot of something, it needs to be something like that they've never heard of or seen before. It's like, oh my gosh, they see that thing and they go, I've never heard of that before. That's brilliant. I got to do that. I need that thing, right? And so that's really hard to do. But if you're patient and you're watching and you're a student of the market, you can kind of see what other people are doing. It's just like Apple, right? They didn't invent the MP3 player. They didn't invent the phone, the smartphone. They saw BlackBerry and what they were doing, right? Or even before that with the MP3 player, the iPod. There were other MP3 players out there, but they were kind of clunky and they weren't working very well. So they said, let's build one that's simpler, that can hold even more music than anything else. And it will synchronize really easily with your computer. And then we'll create a store where you can get the music from iTunes. And then with the smartphone, there was BlackBerry, there were flip phones, there were BlackBerries, there were even other phones. The same with the tablets. There were other tablets before the iPad. But Apple came on and said, all right, we're going to just do it different. We're going to do it better. They weren't the first pioneers on those things. So at all of the products that I've created, and I've created about 10 different major information products over the last 13 years or so. It's been a kind of a big improvement and a tweak on what's already out there, because I see the demand is kind of following that way. And so I'm creating a better opportunity.
Yeah. So you've been successful in basically doing both, info and course sales and supporting others that are looking for the financial freedom like you are, and people were coming to you to learn these proven strategies. But there's like this old adage, like those who can't do real estate sell courses on how to do real estate, right? And so, I always admire the coaches and the mentors out there that are still active and in the game. But how do you balance that? How do you balance being able to be somebody who's still active, who's making money, who's staying on the cutting edge of all the new strategies and the things that are hot, with actually creating these courses and teaching people these strategies so they can go and execute them?
Well, that's a really, really good question. And it's easy to like throw rocks at the gurus. But if you think about it, I got a few things I say to that. And I still do deals, 1 or 2 a month, maybe 1 deal every couple months. Like I'm not as active as I could be. I could be doing a lot because it's almost impossible. There's very few people that can be good at both at the same time. Like do a ton of deals and do a ton of teaching and education. But if you think about it, like everybody needs a coach, right? You look at some of the best coaches in football, Bill Belichick, right? How much football was he playing when he was coaching? None, right?
Yeah.
Phil Jackson from the Bulls, right? You could go through all the coaches, like they don't play football anymore. And there's a reason for that. They're too old. And even Sean McVay, when he coached the Rams into the Super Bowl, they won the Super Bowl, what was that, 5 years ago or so?
Mm-hmm.
Like I think he was the youngest NFL coach ever. He was still in his 30s.
Yeah.
He could have been playing football. And you know what? He never played professional football either. He was just a really good coach. I think he played college a little bit. But they're just because you're not actively playing the game doesn't mean you are not and can't be a good coach. Because it's a huge different skill set. Just the same way you could take a great player who's done a lot of deals or is really good at the game, Michael Jordan, horrible coach. He's not even a good owner, a team owner, right? Like,
right.
You just because you're good at doing deals doesn't mean you're good at coaching and education and all that. So you got to keep that in mind. But at the same time, you obviously need to know how the game is played. And the best way to know how the game is played if you want to be a coach is to actually do deals, right? So I consider myself a real student of the game. I still do deals today, but I cut my chops before I started teaching this. I was doing deals for a couple years, land deals for a couple years before I started teaching it. And then when I started teaching it, it was more like, hey, watch me do this as I do it type of a thing. Now, Robert Allen, he wrote the book Nothing Down and Multiple Streams of Income. It's funny, I have his book over here. It says Nothing Down. It's right over there. I don't see it right now, but it says, yeah, there it is, Nothing Down. And then it has a sticker on it on the cover, updated for the 80s, which is hilarious, right? Well, he said, I've made my millions doing real estate. I've made my hundreds of millions teaching people how to do real estate. And there's nothing wrong with that. And these people that cast stones and castigate and the gurus that are teaching this stuff, I'm like, come on, really? For me, I thank God for the gurus that were out there, the Robert Allens, the Carlton Sheets, Ron LeGrands, who were teaching this stuff, because I didn't necessarily learn real estate from them, but I learned it from somebody else who learned it from them. And when I was getting started, yeah, I mean, there weren't Facebook groups or YouTube channels and videos and podcasts, but there were other forums out there. You could learn this stuff for free. But it wasn't until I invested in somebody's course and I bought their program, went to their boot camp, signed up for their coaching, that I actually started doing deals, because there's so much information out there that people need a place where they can go, where they can get the truth of, and can learn in a real concise step-by-step format of how to do deals. So for me personally, I'm grateful for the gurus out there that coached me and got me started. And, you know, the bigger you get, they say there's a saying, like the higher the flagpole you climb, the more everybody else can see your ass. Right? So like when those guys that climb up high like that, They pay a price for that. It's not easy. Yeah, they make good money, but they deserve it because it's just it's this tricky thing of like it's not as easy as everybody thinks, and you don't actually make as much money as everybody thinks you do. And a lot of people come into the coaching, information, marketing space and drop out. It's really, really hard to be a good operator and a good educator at the same time. And so it's really difficult to like be in both worlds, especially with divided attention. Like for me, I'm not good at multitasking and I'm not good at two things. I've tried before to be a jack of all trades, but I turn to be a master of none when I do that. So I have to choose one or the other. So my education publishing business is like almost 99.9% of my focus, although I'm still doing deals. And when I do deals, I partner with people on deals. So like somebody will, I do every day, I do coaching calls where I review deals, I analyze them. And if one of my clients or students brings me a good deal, I partner on it. And I partner with them by lending them the money and giving them the advice on the deal and how to close it. And then we split the profits on the back end, either 50-50 or 70-30 or something like that. So I would tell anybody like who, number one, who criticizes the gurus, just like, hey, just relax, don't be an idiot, because if it wasn't for the guy who taught you, you wouldn't be where you are today doing deals. Thank God for the educators out there that are now there's a lot of slime balls and bad actors out there. So whatever, but you can't throw out the baby with the bathwater, whatever that means. You've got to so I really do appreciate this industry. I'm proud of the industry because, it's really needed right now. And you could go to places, like Bigger Pockets, which is awesome and great community. And they bash everybody that sells anything because they think everything should be free. But the problem is when you go to a site like Bigger Pockets or many different Facebook groups and you ask a question, you get 20 different answers. And you get one person that says, oh, you can't do that. That's illegal, immoral, and fattening. And then you get another guy that says, well, you can do that. And I do that. And here's how you can do it. And then you get another guy that says, well, you can do that in this state, but you can't do it in this state. Or you need to use this contract, or you need to use this strategy. And then another one says, well, you can do it this way or that way. So it's really hard to get like a clear consensus. And there's nobody to hold you accountable. There's nobody to really answer your question for the situation that you're in. And so that's my 2 cents on the marketing education industry. Does that make sense?
It does. Yeah, I like how you first, identified that it was needed, right? And then, but you also said there's a right way and a wrong way to do it, basically. And this is where I think a lot of people who are thinking about buying a course or thinking about getting a mentor or a coach, they have this analysis paralysis around it because they don't know where to go. Where do you think a coach can go wrong in this space? They've got the best intentions, likely, because they think they can make money and they want to help people, but then they do it and something goes sideways. And then that student doesn't feel like they got their money's worth. What would you say to that?
Well, it's the biggest mistake educators make, and gurus, whatever, is information overload. And I'm guilty of this sometimes, where because I want to help so much, I will give away too much information. I'll even answer the questions they aren't even asking yet because I know they're going to ask them later. Well, the problem with that is it's like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize you had to think about that. Or that wasn't even a question I had. Now I'm really overwhelmed. So as a coach, it's important to keep things simple of like, okay, listen, somebody that you're coaching, don't worry about steps 7 and 8 yet. Don't worry about that. Just focus on steps 1 and 2. This is what you need to do. Let's come up with a plan. Let's get let me help you, hold you accountable. Let's put you in this community where we can hold you accountable. Don't even worry about steps 7 and 8 yet. Just focus on steps 1 and 2. And that's all you need to worry about right now. All right. So go do that and then come back and report on your progress, report on your results after you do that thing. So I tell people all the time, don't ask what if, ask what next. And so when you're creating a program to help people learn real estate or whatever niche you're in, think in terms of what are the 8 steps, and then focus on just teaching them step 1 in the simplest path possible. And like, excuse me, I'm sorry, my land investing course right now, I've updated it like 3 or 4 times. And I'm still constantly going back and simplifying. And now I've got it to where I show them how to do a land deal with just pen and paper. You don't need any software, right? And then the bonus modules are, okay, here's how to use the software, right? But I want them to know that they don't have to use a computer. It certainly helps make everything easier, but all you need is a cell phone and a piece of paper and a pen. And, you can ask the seller these questions. And then I have, instead of giving them a spreadsheet and how to calculate an offer, I show them how to do it on a worksheet. Just print 20 of these worksheets and write into these numbers and do these calculations and come up with a number offer. That's all you need to do. Mm-hmm. And so that's helped a lot with people feeling less overwhelmed. And then my modules I really try hard to break them down into step by step. And don't worry about steps 5 and 6 and 7 and 8 until you do steps 1, 2, and 3. And stop asking, what if this happens? What if that happens? This is what I coach people all the time. Just keep on asking what next. Just ask what next. Forget about the what ifs. If you have to wait until all your I's are dotted and all your T's are crossed, you'll never get started. Yeah. And I was a professional student for 3 years, buying course after program, after boot camp and workshop and coaching program. For 3 years, I was spending way more money on my education than I was making. And that's kind of why I'm so passionate about this, is because I want to help people do deals in the fastest and easiest way possible. And to do that, it's got to be simple. It's got to be so simple that a kid could do it, that your grandmother could do it. And when you have a program that's simple, you may, as an educator, feel like, oh man, but they're not getting my best stuff. Like they don't have all my advanced tactics. You don't need to give away your advanced tactics yet, right? That could be as part of once they do a couple deals, then you can give them the higher advanced stuff. But we may think as a coach, they need to know everything A to Z when they really don't. They just need to know steps 1 and 2. And then it's a slow progression from there. Does that make sense?
It does. Yeah, it does. But at the end of the day, it's up to the person who paid for the course to do the things that you're telling them to do. Right. And I feel like that's one of the biggest problems why a coaching program doesn't succeed. It isn't really not about the content of the program or the coach themselves. It's like communicating it effectively enough for the student to take action and actually believe that they can accomplish it. What do you think is the thing that holds back people the most from succeeding? They get the best course in the world, but they're still failing. What's happening there?
I was just reading a book, really good book called Buy Back Your Time by Dan Martell. Have you heard of that?
Mm-hmm.
Great book. Well, one of the things he talked about, it wasn't the point of the book, but he started talking about kind of entrepreneurs and what they're made of and why isn't everybody an entrepreneur? Like why it's not just real estate. It's like small business entrepreneurs. And one of the biggest reasons is the risk aversion. Like, the reason why some entrepreneurs are successful is we're not afraid to take risks, right? We're not afraid of the unknown. And sometimes you just got to jump off a building and figure out how to fly as you fall, right? And that is almost impossible for some people to accept. And so I have a lot of people that have bought my programs with 100% intention of, I'm going to do this, right? But when it gets hard, or when there's the unknowns, or there's the what ifs, or the fear of failure, or the fear of success, what if they say yes? And it's just like, I can't take that risk. And it could be they don't have a spouse that's supporting them. That's a huge factor in this too, right? I think the one of the reasons why I think I've been so successful is because of my wife, who supported me and was willing to go on this journey with me and take the risks as well. When we didn't know where our paycheck was going to come from, you only eat what you kill. So I think one of the biggest reasons why a lot of people buy programs and don't succeed with it, it's not because the program is bad. It's not because it doesn't have good teachings in there, but it's the fact that the person who on the other end who's going through it is afraid to take massive imperfect action. They're just afraid, because what if it doesn't work? And what if I invest all this money in marketing and I don't get any leads from it, or I don't get a deal from it? There's two things that think I've tried to figure out to help that. One of them, don't let me forget to talk about this. It's my business completion challenge. And the other thing is Frank Kern, who's a famous kind of internet marketing guy, who's really funny. He says there's 2 commandments in real estate. And I'm going to use the PG version of it because he likes to cuss. Number 1 is stop farting around. And number 2 is stop being a sissy. Okay. And so stop farting around. Like, you should just Google this, Frank Kern, the 2 commandments for business. And it's about a 5-minute video. It's really, really good, but it's so simple. It's like, you're just farting around, right? Like, if Osama bin Laden, he says, did people still know who Osama bin Laden was, who were younger than 30 years old? I don't know.
Probably. He's not in the news much these days.
All right. Well, if this bad terrorist guy had a gun at your head and said, send out that letter or build that website, and you've got 30 minutes or I'm going to blow your head off, you would figure out a way to do it, right? You'd go to YouTube and you do a search of like how to send a letter or how to build a website. And then you'd go buy a domain at GoDaddy, and you would watch another video on like how to set up WordPress or how to set up, whatever. And you would get it done. You'd get it done. It wouldn't be perfect. It would be ugly, but you'd get it done. And so many of us are like just farting around. Like, we know what we need to do, but we just don't do it because we're farting around. And if we really had a gun to our head, we would get it done. The second thing is stop being a sissy. We'll go spend tens of thousands of dollars on education, masterminds, coaching programs, courses. We get this, it's kind of like this, I don't know what it's called, but it's an endorphin rush or some kind of like chemical release when we buy something new and we invest in a program and we go like, yes, this is exciting. Like, I got my LLC but then, we won't spend $1,000 on a direct mail campaign, or we won't spend $1,000, $5,000 on PPC, or we won't create the ads. We won't actually do the stuff because we're afraid. We're just a sissy, right? So it's like, if people would just decide today, all right, I'm going to get off the fence. You can't drive a parked car. I'm going to put it in drive. I'm going to just start moving forward and start farting around and stop being so afraid of every little thing. And I'm just going to invest in this. I'm going to take it seriously. I'm going to implement it. I'm not going to change anything. I'm going to stop asking what if questions. I'm just going to do what the guy says to do. That's when you'll start having success. So I created a thing called the Business Completion Challenge in my course, where if they go through my program, and I learned this from a guy named Mike Dillard, who learned it from another guy, Dean Jackson. But if you complete my course, just go through the program and implement it. Show me what you've done. Even if you don't do a deal, I'll refund all your money. That's how much I believe in this program. And what I say is, you go through the program, you have to make at least 50 offers in 6 months. And you have to participate. You have to go through the modules, participate in the coaching calls and the Facebook group. And I have a higher expensive program that you have to make 100 offers in 6 months, written offers. And you have to give a good reason for that. And my reason is, some of you guys are going to partner with me on deals. You're going to get a deal under contract. You're going to bring it to me. Let's partner on it, and we'll make some profit on that. The other reason I like to do it is I want to invest in people that take massive action, and I want to take away all the risk. And I know if you're happy, you're going to be a raving fan and a customer for life. And you're going to tell other people about me. I'm going to get great testimonials, and you might sign up for coaching or something else, that you might sign up for my software or something. So like, everybody wins. And I've given to date over $620,000 in Business Completion Challenge refunds across all of my different programs to people who just completed it. You don't even have to do a deal. Just go through it and try it and do it. And I say it like this: I'm putting my money where my mouth is. This is how much I believe in this, right? If I can't make you money, then I don't deserve yours. And so I want to take away all the risk. If you've got a spouse that's like, nah, don't you buy another course again, you can tell her, listen, all we have to do is go through it, implement it. And if it doesn't work, Joe's going to give us some money back. And if it does work, then we're going to make a lot of money. And I have a lot of people that actually do it. They do deals, they make money, and they don't ask for their money back because the value they got back was so much more in return. So I'm trying to take away all of their excuses to fail. And they're only going to fail if they don't do it,
Yep.
if they don't try.
If they don't try, if they can't in some way overcome those limiting beliefs, that the things that are stopping them from taking that massive action. But you've invested in courses yourself, right? So it's like you're practicing what you preach. Like you actually
Yeah.
invested in these courses and spent tens of thousands of dollars to learn the things, to then do the things and now teach the things. So you've done the whole cycle,
Well,
right?
I spent 150 grand to be in this program right here, this thing called Inner Circle with Russell Brunson, a couple years ago. $150,000 just to hang out with Russell Brunson twice a year. But it was the network, it was the community that was around
Right.
him. And I made way more money than that on the things that I learned from them because I implemented it. Um, I try to be a massive implementer, and I know I'm going to screw it up, and I'm going to mess it up, but like I just I don't want to be left in the cold. I don't want to be left in the back, right? I want to be kind of on the forefront as much as possible.
Yeah.
So I want to hang out with people like that, right? And I'm not saying anybody, you all should invest in a $150,000 coaching program or mastermind, but like you should be investing in your business and in your education and in yourself. And but for heaven's sake, don't invest in a program that you're not committed 100% in advance to implementing and going at it full 100% full speed. Even if you don't see any results in 3 months, in 6 months, like you've got to be that committed to want to go into that and do it, or else you don't waste your money. And I tell people too, like if you're going to be doing land and you're going to be doing direct mail, you should just plan on like 3 months, no money, because it takes time to do the marketing, to get the leads, to send the offers, to do the follow-up, to sell the deals. Once you get them under contract, it's going to take time. You could do it faster. Certainly I've had people that have done it in 3 weeks and done a deal, right? But like it's going to take time, and you need to be willing to commit to doing 3,000, 4,000 or 5,000 postcards, which could cost you, $3,500 before you do a deal. But if your average profit is $10,000 and you do 2 or 3 deals, like it's a no-brainer. It's a really good program. So I think people need to have realistic expectations, but they need to look at themselves too and realize, do I have what it takes? Am I just gonna fart around and do my business logo and build my website and try to get business cards, or am I going to actually do the stuff that matters? And if you're afraid to make mistakes or afraid to take massive action, and even though it's imperfect, then it's not a good time for you to invest in this. So I try my best to like explain that to folks, and I really try my best like to say, listen, I'm taking away all the risk here with when you buy my program, but for heaven's sake, don't buy it if you're not going to do it. It's like, save your money, right? If you're not going to invest in the marketing, if you're not going to actually go through the modules and do what I tell you to do, even though you may not understand why, then don't buy it. Stop, save your money. Like go to community college or get a college degree or something, do something different.
So let's just say you had another opportunity to do all this. You can go back to 2008, do it all over again, knowing what you know now. And let's say you only had $100 in your pocket and you're going to start from scratch. What would you do? And would you do anything differently?
Well, I would have bought and hold everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I would have waited until 2012 when the market started, and I would have, instead of wholesaling, I would have just kept. But woulda, coulda, shoulda. You'll just get discouraged and depressed if you dwell on that too much. I don't know if I would have done much different though, to be honest. Like, there was a time when I got into a serious financial trouble with the IRS. And I've talked about this on my YouTube channel. I owed the IRS 520 something $1,000, and I had a federal tax lien on my house that I was owner financing. So I didn't even technically own it yet, but the IRS slapped a huge lien on it. And I couldn't refinance it out of the owner financing into traditional bank financing until I paid the IRS off, right? So that was a nightmare. But like, if I had to do it over again, I would hire a bookkeeper earlier on, and I would have implemented the book profit first right away from day one, and that would have helped me avoid almost every financial mistake I've ever made. That book profit first is really, really important. But like, I just I didn't realize, like, a mutual friend of ours, Tom Kroll, says, don't um, try to fix your weaknesses, outsource them. And so I was trying to fix my weakness of managing the books and the numbers, trying to do it myself, or just once a year give it to an accountant. But like, I should have hired earlier on a bookkeeper to do all of my books from the very beginning, even though I wasn't making much money, because that would have helped me avoid some of the big mistakes that I did. Um, there was somebody that said to me one time, if you don't know your numbers, you don't have a real business. And for years, I did not know my numbers. I just like look at the checkbook, the checking account, and that's how much money I had, and that's what I would spend my money on. And then I would forget about owing the IRS money. I'd forget about owing affiliates money, or owing somebody money from a deal split or whatever. And so it's easy to get trapped in this debt cycle of using new money that's coming in to pay off old debts that you owe, right? And so when you can implement something like profit first, it helps you avoid all of that, because every dollar that comes in now, it goes into one of 3 or 4 buckets, right? One for taxes, one for my own profit, one for my own salary. And then everything that's left over is left over for expenses. That way your business will always be profitable. And now I'm in a much better position where I know my numbers. I get the stats every week in a Google sheet. I know my KPIs, my key performance indicators, and I'm constantly looking at those, trying to, at least, and trying to get my team to like manage the business based on those KPIs.
So, Joe, you've been amazing at identifying trends over your career and pivoting when it makes sense. Do you see anything coming down the pipe that we should be aware of? A market trend, a new strategy, something that people can really grab on to, and maybe doing something different than what we've done in the past that will help them succeed?
Yeah, in the internet marketing and the information publishing space, there's a huge trend lately into service-based businesses. Like, one of the hottest offers right now is an offer on how to be a bookkeeper. And this guy's spending 150 grand a day on ads, teaching people how to be a bookkeeper. There's another guy that I just talked to today. He's doing really, really well. He's got an offer right now that's crushing it on teaching people how to start their their own cleaning businesses. And you're not doing the cleaning yourself. You're getting the customers, and then you're subcontracting out to other companies that have the trucks and the equipment on doing the cleaning, and you're paying them, 50% of whatever you collect.
Is that Johnny Robinson?
Yeah. I just talked to him this morning.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're going to be lining up a promotion in January. But I've been seeing this, and there's a lot of other businesses like that I see are doing these that's not like how to make $1 million or how to be an overnight millionaire. It's how to make, $2,000 a month on the side being a bookkeeper, or how to make 2,000 a month creating a cleaning services business. There's also, I see I know this guy who taught people how to run a business selling hot dogs, a hot dog cart, a hot dog stand business. And he did it himself, right? He made a ton of money selling hot dogs, and he realized, you know what? There's a lot of people that would like to learn how to do this, and it's a lot easier teaching people how to sell hot dogs than actually selling hot dogs. So he started an internet marketing business, and doing really, really well doing that. So like, I think in the internet marketing space, the services, home-based services like power washing, cleaning, window washing, cleaning gutters. Even if you can create a business teaching people who are in the trades like plumbing and HVAC, and electrical work, like how to start a business, selling that stuff. I know guys right now that are killing it, starting businesses on how to do flooring flooring installation. They're not doing the work themselves. They've created a sales business. It's all sales and marketing, right?
Mhm.
So when you can do it, then you can teach other people how to do it. So that maybe is a trend. And I still think real estate's going to be hot. In the real estate space, what's the trend going to be? I don't know, but I need to think about that more. But you know what? If I really wanted to figure it out, the first thing I would do is I would join every real estate mastermind that I could. There's Investor Fuel, there's Collective Genius, there's a couple, 3 others. There's Family Mastermind that you and I are a part of. And I would start just putting my ear to the railroad track, and listening for where's the train coming from. And you'll find from other people what is actually working today based on people in these masterminds will share. That's what I would probably start doing.
Yeah. That's
What do
great
you think?
advice.
What do you think is the answer to that?
I think I'm paying attention to fractional ownership on the blockchain, in the crypto space, and how you could buy and sell real estate by creating projects in the blockchain, and lowering the barrier to entry for people who want to invest in like multifamily properties or larger projects that are out of reach, that they're not accredited or they just don't have that liquidity.
Yeah.
But could buy coins.
That's cool.
Yeah.
That reminded me of another thing I'm seeing in the future, and this is something our mutual friend of ours, Francis Albola, is really on the cutting edge of, and I think it's going to be a trend for a long time going forward, is how to sell your services, how to sell your AI, not necessarily using AI but like how to create a business. Because for other small, like a consultant business or whatever, for other small businesses on using AI, like the small business owners out there, the chiropractors, the lawyers, whatever, they don't want to learn AI. But if you could learn how to do it and you could train VAs on how to do it, you can sell your knowledge and expertise to small businesses and run their AI for them. Does that make sense? Like somebody said,
You're like an
AI
AI
isn't
consultant.
replacing jobs, right? But the people that know how to use AI are replacing the jobs out there. So that's another big thing. If you're big into AI, you can train people how to use AI to start businesses as a done for you AI service. That's another big thing I think is.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Joe, we're coming up against the end of the hour here. It flew by. I appreciate you hanging out with me for a little bit and sharing some of your past and some nuggets and just some great quotes. I think that it's going to inspire a lot of people to take action. But if there's anybody who's listening that does want to work with you, who is interested in land flipping or wholesaling or anything else that you're involved with, how can they find you?
My YouTube channel is one good place to go. Just at YouTube, do a search for Joe McCall. I do a little workshop every Saturday. It's recorded, but it's called Land Fast Start Masterclass. So in this 3-hour class, I show like what I would do if I were to go into a brand new market and start doing deals in a brand new market that I've never done deals in before. And so if you go to joemccall.com/Saturday, it's $7, and that would be a good place to go. joemccall.com/Saturday to watch the next one that I do every Saturday. And you'll learn a lot from that. Even if you decide, I don't want your program, you're going to learn enough from there that you can go get started doing land. Yeah.
Amazing. Well, Joe, thanks again for taking the time. I appreciate it. And everybody, thanks for listening. Go check out Joe's stuff. Check out his YouTube channel. He's got a bunch of free education there, and you get to know Joe a little bit better. But thank you for listening to this edition of the REI Hacker Podcast, and we'll see you next time. Thanks.
Thanks, Benson.
That's a wrap on today's Real Estate Revelations. Thank you for tuning into the REI Hacker Podcast. Remember, every property has a story, and every deal is a lesson. Until next time, keep hacking the real estate world.